One of the best things you can do is no matter where you are, learn something from it. Like, I've got freelance friends that say, oh, I have to go take a job. And I'm saying, well, use that job as an experience. Even if it's sitting in a parking booth taking parking tickets, you've got free time to figure out angles or strategies or how to get your next client. You can observe people's behavior. And your really genius marketers are actually experts at human behavior.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Streamline to Scale. Thank you so much for being here today, Carolyn. I am super excited to dive into all the financials and tax tips and everything that you've got that helps you be the incredible businesswoman you are. You've been an advisor to so many and do a lot of marketing strategy and everything. So I'm really excited to have Carolyn here today, everybody.
Thank you, Michele. I guess it's sort of pleasant to have somebody who's excited about financial and tax things. This is a nice change. Normally it's like, oh no, the tax nerd is here.
Oh my God, but it's so essential. Like, especially as business owners, there's so many tricks that you can do to really, make the most of your money, make it go as far as you can.
Right. Well, and we need to remember that as freelancers, we still are business people too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I am excited for this because I've always learned a lot from you, especially, in the financial side, but also the marketing and everything else. So just a little background on Carolyn, everybody. Carolyn has rearranged people's finances for decades before switching to marketing and copywriting. After selling intangibles like real estate planning or estate planning and investment management, she feels regular marketing is really easy, which makes sense. I mean, estate planning, investment, who wants to buy that stuff? So if you can sell that, it's a really great warm up to regular marketing. And she helps people strengthen their pull marketing thanks to her experience with financial, golf, legal, advanced parenting, infertility, alternative health, politics, inner child, and self-esteem, and small business survival skills. Like, Carolyn is the jack of all trades. Every conversation I have with her, anywhere I am, I'm like, yes, this woman. I remember first meeting you in CA. I was just so excited when you first joined. I was gave you a big hug and everything because every conversation you drop so much great knowledge. So I'm excited for this today. Also, you guys, she boosts hidden economics with things like $10,000 a month free Google ads and cutting edge AI language translation to expand market research. And finally, she refers clients to people in her network who do everything from closing high ticket lost leads to finding and hiring the right people. So Carolyn's just an all around, all in one, everything you need for your business, all the, advice on the legal and the financial, but the marketing strategies and the insights that she brings to a business are just so invaluable, as well as her network and her knowledge of different companies and softwares to work with. So we're going to dive into a lot of this today, and I'm super excited to have Carolyn here with us. Thank you so much, Carolyn.
Right. Wow. Now you make me excited about talking to myself. But thank you so much for that introduction. I guess one of the things is, because I just have a long life experience, one of the best things you can do is no matter where you are, learn something from it. Like, I've got freelance friends that say, oh, I have to go take a job. And I'm saying, well, use that job as an experience. Even if it's sitting in a parking booth taking parking tickets, you've got free time to figure out angles or strategies or how to get your next client. You can observe people's behavior. And your really genius marketers are actually experts at human behavior. It isn't a tip or a trick or a tool. It's, what do I know about human beings and how do they behave and what motivates them? So deep down, there's always something you can learn. And that's, I think, what I've done, and what sort of sets me apart is I take all of those experiences and file them away. And sometimes you'll never know when it happens, but there'll be a perfect opportunity to either use a story or an idea based on something you've either seen or heard. So even if you have to take a job temporarily, don't view that as lost time. it's all gathering information for your next gig.
I love that. It's so helpful, and it's such a positive, because a lot of people feel like they're failing by having to go into a regular job. But when you look at it from that point of view, I mean, what marketing is understanding people's behaviors, the psychology, the sociology, like understanding people and using every experience, whether it's getting another job or it's, going to the grocery store and having a run-in with somebody, or, finding some really good, meeting someone that you find is incredibly interesting. Everywhere you go, you always meet somebody fun and interesting. I can't tell you the people that I've met at just random like music events or venues or whatever, where I just kind of pop in myself and just meet people because it's fun. It's fun. So I love that.
Well, and just as an example, let's say an extreme, I have to get a job at McDonald's or Starbucks just to pay my bills. If I just go there and show up and go through the motions and get paid hourly, that's a really poor use of my time. But if I really carefully observe what's going on, people, the systems, what they do, if I learn about fast food through working at McDonald's, then I have an edge if I know fast food competitors or fast food companies that want marketing advice. Or I can come up with angles for ads or emails by doing a little bit of extra thinking work and observing what is really going on here. And I'm one of those weird people, whenever I see something, I want to make it better. So I'll be standing in a long line somewhere and think, gee, how could this person have made this more efficient or better? Could they have put a magazine rack where I'm waiting? Could they have had more registers open? A lot of times I'm very picky about customer service. Employees in businesses don't realize they are little billboards for that business. So if they look bored or disinterested, or if they haven't been trained properly, so they don't know how to answer questions, that's something the business owner would love to know. So sometimes you look at things and just say, gee, how could this be better? And it doesn't mean you have to have a CPA or you don't have to be a marketing genius, but just from a common sense standpoint. If I'm a customer or I'm a consumer and I have an experience, what could make it better? And if I tuck that away in my mental file, then when I'm writing an email or an ad or pitching an idea, I pull that out and say, as an example, I was at blah, 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 blah. One of the things I think would have made it a lot better is if they would have had someone, passing out a free sample to wait while I was waiting in line or something. So again, it's just taking knowledge that everyone has access to, but organizing it and storing it so you can pull it out and use it later.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's huge. And you're talking about a lot of these fast food places too. And what they're so good at is the process. That's how McDonald's, grew to what they are. And Starbucks and all them, it's their processes they put in place. So always looking at the customer experiences, the process, and any situation, you can always learn from people and look at how many people come through those kind of places or come through. Yeah. And just learning from them and what they want. That's how you get a broader sense of different niches and markets. But I love that. And I do want to kind of ask you, how did you get started with all this in the first place? With, what is your background story, the financial side, as well as how you got into the marketing side?
Well, when I got out of college, I was not quite 21 years old. And actually I was barely 20 and I looked 12. And I was having a hard time deciding what I wanted to do because I applied to graduate schools, and those schools, back when I was applying, they wanted everyone to have a couple of years working for a Procter & Gamble and then going back to get an MBA. So I ended up trying to find a job. And I think one of the things that was very interesting is we need to remember, trying to get clients, we need to use the same marketing principles we learn. We go to seminars and we learn about, how to get a client for a customer, but we need to also think, for us to get our own clients, we should use those same principles. So sorry, that's a little bit off track, but I got into financial because basically there was a job where they didn't pay me anything. It was commission only. And it was very luckily financial planning. So sort of by accident, I had to learn about stuff that people really need. I mean, whether you're a huge business owner or just starting out in life, you should know the basics about money, how it works, how to get it, how to keep it, when you spend it, how to spend it wisely. And then from financial planning, there was an opportunity to move to Hawaii and train a bunch of insurance agents in financial planning and investments. So I ended up coming to Hawaii, where I was put in this very good learning environment, but very difficult work environment, where it was me, young female Asian woman, and a group of mostly middle-aged to old Asian insurance agents. And I was told, get them modernized, teach them that there's more to life than just car insurance and health insurance and life insurance. So it was a good training for me to learn how to train people who didn't have my background. So I had to learn how to explain things very simply to people who maybe didn't understand the vocabulary. And that, I think, has been a strength all through my career, taking a concept and turning it around to explain it to people who can understand it. But after literally decades of looking out after people's stuff, their financial things, and hearing about the challenges with their children and worrying about their taxes, that's a very heavy career to have. And I got so tired of looking out after other people's things. I'd always been the writer in the group. Like when I worked at a bank, I had to write the seminars or I had to proofread the brochures. So I'd always been doing writing, copywriting, content writing, marketing. I had to write seminar scripts and deliver seminars. So before webinars even existed, I was writing 40-minute scripts on topics and delivering those speeches to groups and learning about how to present a message so people didn't fall asleep and actually got interested and raised their hands and said, where do I sign up? So that sort of naturally took me into marketing. I joined Copy Accelerator, and that's where I met you. And at first, I thought this copywriting thing was great. You create words, and through your words, you create money. But then I realized everyone, at least in my world back then, was doing copywriting. And one of the best things you can learn in marketing is find something that makes you unique. So compared to all these brilliant writers around me, I found out a lot of them didn't have the background that I did with business. So people that we pitch our services to are business owners. And I was getting a slight edge by being more sympathetic to them as business owners. I mean, copywriters back then were saying, oh, well, if you hire me and pay me $10,000, I'll write you this thing and you'll get all this stuff. And for a business owner, making that kind of investment is sort of a heavy decision. So by taking the knowledge of what do business owners operate on, I could pitch it a little differently, or I would rearrange my compensation to make it more win-win, where I'll say, I'll share the risk with you. The risk is my time, and I will put together a product. And instead of charging you a lot of money for that time and product up front, I'll charge you a smaller amount, but would you be willing to give me a percentage of the results? So doing little things like that sort of helped me relate to people. And then as it turns out, because I always was the one who knew so much because I was basically so old, I could share experience with other people. Like I see a lot of writers and marketers where they're in markets where they need to do more research, or they need to get a best friend who is in that target market. So a lot of times I would tell people with a parenting-oriented offer, hey, mothers don't think like that. This is how mothers think. So if you really want to get into their hearts, you should use this angle. Like I'm not walking around wanting to get the prize for the best mother. I'm walking around worried about, will my child have the skills he needs to become an adult and live on his own? Mm-hmm. So it's sort of a long evolution, but now I found what I do uniquely is I use common sense to look at things and try to solve problems. I don't try to outmarket marketers. I try to find little ways where you can optimize or increase something just by a little bit. And then the other thing is I do keep up with financial things. because the economy has changed so much, even in the last year or two. Things that we were pitching before, you can't sell now. So you have to adapt. And these business owners actually have to adapt even more than we do, because they have rent to pay, they have employees to pay, they have other things that for them, looking at the dollars they have to spend it very carefully. So if I come in and say sort of like, hey, I know about business, I know about small businesses, these are things you can do, I have more credibility than if I walk in and say, I can write you an ad that will get 10,000 people to click on the link and buy. So again, it's just the approach.
I agree. It's like, it's doing the math for people, for them to understand. And you have such a great background in, just so much knowledge in all of this, in this space, and like understanding of it. And like you said, like you've always been a writer. And so you have a vast amount of skills as well as knowledge and experience to lean on that really helps, people that you work with and people you get to just talk to, like not just your clients, but like people like me and like other, colleagues that we have within the community. I know that in the Nothing Held Back group, you go in and you actually give people advice on their, feedback on their offers and their website. I mean, you helped me with mine a bunch, and, you're just very giving of your knowledge and sharing it. But also, like you said, like phrasing it for business owners of the financial gain or loss of, and mitigating those kind of risks by, adding different variables and stuff. So I'm definitely going to ask you a little bit more about, this client relationship you have and how you set those up. But first, I'm kind of curious, like, what is it that you are most passionate about in your career as a marketer?
I'm most passionate about interacting with people I enjoy. And maybe it's just because I've spent a lot of time interacting with people I didn't enjoy. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I look for is, is this a person that I want to interact with, and can I bring value to them? So I'm pretty lucky compared to a lot of freelancers. I have a spouse with a stable job, so I'm not financially under the gun to always make money with everything I do. But by putting out, favors or giving advice or trying to help other people, it always comes back. So I know it sounds sort of Pollyannish, but the universe rewards you if you try to be a good person, and you'll never know what thing will start a chain of events that end up being beneficial. But, I would like to sort of touch on something pretty important is, as a business person, you have to allocate your time. And we spend a lot of our time trying to find clients. And then once we get clients, we spend a lot of our time trying to perform or produce whatever we need to do. But one of the things that I know is a little bit boring, but I'll listen to this area, is if you have ways to keep track of all your own stuff, that's less time you spend at the end of the year. Like right now, I'm pulling together all my tax information for my tax preparer. So if I can, and if you'll indulge me, I'd like to spend maybe 3 or 4 minutes talking about a system I've developed. I think it'll help a lot of people.
I definitely want to hear about this. This is on our list. Let's do it. Dive in, Carolyn.
Great.
End of year is a mess for me. Help me, please.
Great. First of all, what you should do is get a separate credit card to use for all your potential business-related expenses. What that does is it saves you from the end of the year going through your statement and hopefully your receipts and trying to figure out, was this business-related or was this just me going out with friends? So separate out your business expenses, and the easiest way to do it is get a separate card. Even if it's not in the name of a business, just designate that as, this is my business card. Whenever I buy an office supply, whenever I buy a course or a book, whenever I go out and have lunch with someone who is in my referral network, I use that card. The other thing is set up a separate bank account for your business. And it can be in your name, but mentally designate that as, that is my business account. Set that account up to receive all your income. So if it's by PayPal or Stripe or any sort of electronic transfer, or if a client writes you a check, put every bit of income into one account, because that saves you an awful lot of trying to sort out, was this a rebate or was this my friend paying me back because I lent them cash? versus is this taxable income? Because you need to report that to the IRS. And I'm going to assume here that we're US-based taxpayers, but I'm sure if you happen to not be a US-based taxpayer, you're under a similar system. Then what I do, which I think is brilliant, is I make envelopes at the beginning of the year, and on the envelope I'll write car and auto expense, business, promotion, marketing, postage, sort of your typical types of expenses for business. And then during the day, if I go out and let's say I buy cartridges for my printer, I will take that receipt whenever I clean out my purse and put it in the supplies envelope. So if I've done this pretty regularly, and you can do it maybe once a week or once a month, at the end of the year, I have these nice little envelopes and I've pre-sorted out my receipts. So all my automobile expenses, my registration, my repairs, and my gas are all in one place. So that saves you a lot of time, and it's taking maybe 30 seconds now to save you 4 or 5 minutes at the end of the year instead of going through a bunch of receipts that aren't related. You've got them in one place. Then the other thing I do is when I'm shopping, I separate items and ask checkout people for 2 receipts. So if I'm at Costco and I'm buying office supplies like paper for my copy machine and, I don't know, whatever I would use for the office, I get a separate receipt for that. And then my groceries are on another receipt. So then at the end of the day or week, when I sort my receipts out, I put the one that has all my business related expenses in one envelope. And I don't have to worry about, later, if I go through an audit and hand a receipt to an auditor, they're not like broccoli, really, or peanut butter. So
your snacks during the day, office snacks.
Yeah. But, it's something to do. If you do it a little bit early, it saves you a lot of time and frustration later. And every minute you save from doing admin stuff is a minute you can spend either looking for a client or doing client work. The other thing is take a few seconds, even if you don't do it at the time, but at the end of the day, write down on your receipt what it's for. Like I go out and I buy a bunch of candy and cookies and Hawaiian Mac nuts, and I give those to people. So that's part of my business promotion. Like when I fly to a mastermind, I will give things to people who have helped me get there or people who took extra time, and I write that off as a business expense. My accountant says, "What do you mean, cookies?" And I said, "Well, I gave that one to the guy that helped me get into the mastermind, and I gave that one to the people that referred me clients, but I have all this written down, so he's willing to let me deduct it. Because if I have to tell the IRS agent, yes, cookies for me are tax deductible because they help me generate income, I've got the documentation." So again, it's like take a little time, and as you do things, do it with the idea of keeping records that you can justify a deduction. And the definition of an actual legitimate deduction is anything you do or use to help you generate taxable income. So books you buy, research materials. If I'm looking at working for a client in the supplement space, I might go out and buy other people's supplements. I make a record of that and I call it research, because by me buying a competitor's supplement or going through a competitor's funnel, I'm able to generate more income in my niche for my client. And so far, my tax preparer is like, hey, as long as you have an explanation, better yet, if you have written proof, like a note that says, these vital protein powders were for research on my protein or collagen offer for so-and-so. He lets me do that. So it's something that if you spend a little bit of time and effort ahead of time and be organized. I mean, I hate being organized because I'm a creative person, but if I spend my time being organized, it helps me in the long run. The other thing is your calendar is your best friend, because if you do, I know we work online, but if you do drive, driving to purchase your office supplies is a tax-deductible expense. And you can take mileage deductions for driving to meetings, for picking up supplies. If I take a trip to go to the mainland for a mastermind, then my Uber to get to the airport is deductible. My Uber to get from the airport to my hotel is deductible. My hotel bill is deductible if it matches the mastermind. Like if the mastermind is 3 days, but I've got a 7 or 8 day hotel bill, I can deduct 3 days of that if I can justify the extra days, like I stayed longer and I met with these people, or I did this extra workshop for these other people, then I can also justify the full hotel bill. So again, anything I do that might help me generate income is a legitimate tax deduction. So just keep good records. And, you know, the worst thing that could happen is you deduct it, the IRS audits you, they disallow it. But if you have your receipt and if you have your written calendar that shows what you did and why you were doing it, then it is, you know, something that they'll have a hard time disproving. And then the last thing is, if you use your car for business, keep track of your odometer readings. In the olden days, I had a little notebook in my car and I wrote down what my odometer said at the beginning of the day, and I jotted down who I went to see. Now what's great is with online apps, as long as I have a calendar that shows me where I went, and then I have odometer readings, and I write them down on my gas receipts. So I'll know roughly, like, okay, at the beginning of the month when I bought gas, my odometer was at this. If I compare my calendar to my odometer reading, I can reconstruct a mileage record. So something to be aware of is, you know, keep a good calendar, even if it's not a formal meeting. If I'm going to meet a potential referral source for lunch, I've got that on my calendar. Or if I'm going to run an errand that I need to run, like to the post office to mail something for a client, then I put that on my calendar. And that way you have the best chance of deducting what is truly deductible. And every time you deduct something, you're saving yourself taxes. The final thing for a freelancer or someone who runs their own business is get a professional to help you with estimated tax payments. If you don't have a salary where your employer withholds your taxes, you do have to pay quarterly. And the IRS will catch you if you make your income, let's say, all in the first part of the year, but you don't declare it till the end of the year. There's actually a penalty for not paying your taxes as you generate the income. So get a little help. You can probably do it online, but figure out what your estimated tax payment should be and then just make those quarterly. They never penalize you for paying early, but they will penalize you for paying late. Which leads me to one of my favorite subjects, which is, as a small business owner, you have the right to set up your own 401k, even if you're the only person in your business. So my suggestion to anyone who might make a profit is set up a 401k plan. You can go to any bank or brokerage firm practically and say, I want to set up what is known as either a solo 401k or an individual 401k, which is just for me. And you don't have to fund that account. You can leave it empty. But at the end of the year, if you discover, oh, I might actually make a good profit this year, you can put money into that 401k plan and it's an automatic tax deduction. So you're putting money that normally you would pay taxes on into an investment account for yourself. And you can write off that amount against your taxable income. There was a person in Copy Accelerator who had heard me say that to someone, and he had said towards the end of the year, hey, do you think I can do that? I'm like, oh my God, you should do that. There's no way you shouldn't do that. And so he told me, wow, you saved me 5 figures in taxes. That was just the first year we did it. The second year I said, oh, by the way, you know, if your wife helps you, like if she pays bills for you or if she reconciles your credit card receipts against your bank statements, if she does anything, put her on payroll for your company, because then she can also, let's say you pay her a minimal amount. You pay her $1,000 a month to do all your bookkeeping. she can take that full $12,000 for the year and put it into the 401k account and deduct it from the taxable income. So you've got this copywriter who deducts his contribution to his 401k, but he also can deduct another portion of that by paying his wife and letting her start her own retirement plan. The best thing is, instead of an IRA or a SEP or a Roth, 401k plans have higher limits. Like people under 50 can put up to $40,000 or $50,000 a year, depending on how much profit you make. But you can also put a plan in that has a loan provision. So when you need money, you're actually borrowing your own money out of your own retirement plan. And when you pay it back, you pay yourself back plus interest. So one thing that I've used it for is when I was buying one of my condos, I borrowed the money out of my own 401k plan and paid myself back, but I borrowed the money for my down payment. So it was very useful to not have to try to come up with, back then it was like $30-some thousand I needed. I borrowed it out of my own plan. I paid it back to myself plus interest, but I had the cash for my down payment. You can borrow the money for almost any purpose, and you just pay yourself back. It doesn't show up on your credit report. You don't need approval. So one thing you can do is please set up a individual or a solo 401k. Leave it empty if you have to. If you don't have profits, you don't fund it. But if you need to fund it, it's there. And what's nice is you can put your money there to invest and grow, but you can also use it if you need it. You can take it out and borrow it, or you can take it out under a hardship. The final thing that's great is every dollar you put into the 401k plan, you're putting dollars you would have paid in taxes. So for example, if I put $10,000 into my 401k plan, if I had taken that as compensation, I might only have 6,800 or basically 68 cents on the dollar after the federal tax, the state tax, and my FICA tax. So by putting the money in the 401k plan, this is going to be a little nerdy. The only tax that comes out is the FICA tax. So any money I would have spent for federal tax and Hawaii state income tax goes into the plan. It grows in the plan without being taxed. And it is the only time I can control my taxes. When I pull that money out, it is taxable income. But if I wait to pull it out to when I'm not working anymore and I'm in a low tax bracket, I've actually been growing money that I would have paid out and taking those earnings and reinvesting those earnings. And then when I need the money, I pull it out, then I pay the taxes. So it's pretty powerful. Like if I have my after-tax account was 68 cents versus my 401k with 93 cents. Right there's a huge difference. And then the earnings on those amounts, if you graph it, it's geometric. And you have a benefit even if you only put the money in the 401k plan for, let's say, 4 or 5 years. You have money earning money that compounds without tax. And that's something that every freelancer should look into. Their brokerage firms and banks let you set up these plans for free, so there's no expense to do it. But the other last thing is we're nearing the end of the year. And if you have a need for a new printer, a new laptop, a new phone, anything you use in your business, and if you're looking at having a profitable year, you might want to go out and buy those now so that you can take the deduction for this year. If you're looking at having profits and you give to charity, make your contribution before the end of the year so you can deduct it for this year, 2023. And then the final thing is if you have medical expenses, then look at bunching them together because you have to have a certain amount of medical expenses before you can deduct them. So if you've got a child who's going to do orthodontics, figure out, should I do it this year and bunch it so I might deduct it, or should I push it into the first quarter of next year? So those are sort of like my practical tax tips that almost anyone can use. And those are things that I do myself. So this is not tax advice. These are suggestions to look into. because I'm not licensed or in a position where I can give tax advice.
Yes, sorry, I didn't mean you were giving advice, but yes, things to look into. I love that. I love that. And that's super helpful, especially, we're coming towards the end of the year, and like
Yep.
when you start thinking about these things, start buying the things that you need for your business, and also keeping everything separate, I think is, it's super important. Like you said, that's something like, of course, have the separate credit cards and bank accounts and all of that. And then one of the ways that I also do it is for online stuff, I connect my PayPal, and I use my PayPal for majority of business expenses. So anytime I see a PayPal thing, I know it's business. So I have like certain accounts for business specific payments, whether that's Wise or PayPal, to keep that kind of stuff separate because it's really important. And then just, like you said, and I think one of the other things that you've mentioned before is like the business expenses for masterminds and stuff like that, how you have mentioned setting up. Now, this is a really cool thing that you've given before, is how you set up those kind of like business meetings so you can have like a week vacation / business. Do you want to share that idea with everyone real quick?
Yeah, well, living in Hawaii, I have an advantage. And one thing I want to set up as an offer later is having people come to Hawaii to consult with me. And if they come and consult in one meeting, in theory, they can write off their whole airfare and 1 day's worth of travel expense, car rental, hotel. If we stretch the assignment over a week, like we meet, we talk, we get background, I send them off because I need to do some thinking and planning and come up with a proposal of where they go next. And let's say on day one, we meet, we share some information. I tell them, okay, let's meet again in a couple days because I need some time to put together some of the things I'm thinking about. And then I present that, let's say on day 3, and they're like, oh, that's a good idea, but I don't quite get it. I think I need another meeting. And I say, well, let's meet again, let's say on day 5. Then we've stretched out this assignment over 5 days. And so, I mean, in theory, you could, talk to your tax preparer, that you could say, well, I needed to stay there because we actually had a process we went through. It wasn't a one-time meeting. And so, of course, my 5-day hotel bill should be deductible fully. People that own real property, like sometimes they own property in Hawaii and they come to inspect their property. A good accountant will tell them you cannot take 2 weeks to inspect your property. So you go and inspect it, that's a one-time thing. So the really smart property owners inspect it, but then they make arrangements to have the repairs and improvements and the repainting done while they're there. So of course they're going to hang around and see how the work is done, hire other people and sort of supervise it. So again, talk to your tax preparer, but you can actually make a lot of your business activities tax deductible, or you can stretch those deductions.
For sure. And I think that in the, like you're saying, I love the idea about the consulting. I will definitely be out to Hawaii to visit you. I think one other thing with that too is if you do it in a group setting and you have some, options for group networking kind of events in the days that you're working on other things, you can also kind of have a, the vacation plus the because you're all, the networking and all of that still is a lot, that's work in itself, and it's a part of it too. So I am curious, like, in addition to all this, like you've mentioned before, how you've helped like some friends and clients with an ERC credit. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Okay,
I don't even know what that is, I'll be honest with you. So
ERC stands for Employee Retention Credit, and it's a special deal the federal government came up with to reward businesses who kept employees during 2020 and parts of 2021. So this is something that is going to go away starting early next year. But basically, if you kept people on payroll, then you get a chance to get money back from the federal government. And we're talking pretty large sums. I don't want to give real specifics because it's not my area of expertise, but I've heard it's like $26,000 per employee, obviously depending on what you paid them. But there are companies who wanted to do the right thing and keep people on payroll, where now they're getting back 4, 5, 6-figure checks for monies that they spent keeping people off of welfare, basically, during that time. So unless you've been living under a rock, you've heard these ERC ads all over. I'll put in a little plug here. I'm in a network of affiliates where we have 2 or 3 different ERC companies, depending on the type of company who's applying for the credit, where we can look at what they did. We pull up their tax records from 2020 and 2021 and get them an estimate to say, oh, you qualify and you probably will qualify for X amount of dollars. If you know a business who's stayed in business and paid payroll to employees, let me know, and I can either sign you up as an affiliate, you can submit the referral and get the credit yourself and take the commissions, or if somebody refers me something that I put through my affiliate link, I always pay people back. So just something to be aware of. And it's a great prospecting tool. Ask people, did you file and get an ERC credit? Well, the first thing you say is ask them, was COVID hard for you? Are you still recovering? And they'll tell you, oh yeah, it was horrible, whatever. And then you ask them, did you have employees during that time? And did you keep them on payroll? And if they say yes, then you say, oh my gosh, did you know you could get money back? And I'll warn you now, half of the people will say, oh, my accountant already looked into it and said I couldn't. We're finding out a lot of accountants who don't specialize it and know the ins and outs are prematurely telling their clients, no, you don't qualify. When in reality, they're companies that get them checks. Mm-hmm. So one thing to do is be prepared. They'll say, oh, no, I was told I don't qualify. But it's a perfect opening to say, you know, a lot of people don't realize it, but they changed the law halfway through. And there's things that maybe your tax preparer doesn't know. If it costs you nothing, isn't it worth taking advantage of looking at it? You know, the worst case is you spend a little time giving me some tax information and you don't even give it to me. You give it to the company I refer you to. They're the experts. They'll get back to you and say, hey, good news. You qualify and you should get about X. Or they'll say, sorry, your accountant was correct. You don't qualify. But to me, it's like a no-lose situation where you're opening a door. You're saying, hey, I might be able to find you money. No business owner can resist that, especially if you make it really easy. I'm working with experts. They do this day in, day out. This is the only thing they do. They've found money for people who were told they don't qualify. Can I help you see whether or not you can get some money back? No one says no to that. So that is the ERC credit, but it will be expiring because it's dependent on tax forms you filed in 2020 and 2021. So once you lose the chance to amend those returns, then you lose the chance to claim the credit.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that's super helpful for, you know, a lot of businesses who, you know, maybe aren't super aware or living under a rock like me. Cause I also don't like see a lot of ads. Like, I'll be honest, I don't always see too many, but yeah, I think that's super helpful for a lot of them. And I'm curious, like, you know, as a previous financial planner, like this is the last one I'll ask you about finances. I want to get back into some market stuff from you, but I'm curious, like what kind of tips you have for people protecting their assets?
Well, the first thing is be really careful about who you associate with and what you do. Protecting your assets, just one thing you can do and be very careful with is credit. I mean, I have huge credit lines that I don't use, but I make sure I keep track of those. It's useful when I need to buy something and I don't want to like try to get a loan or anything. But when you protect your assets, one thing you have to do is keep track of your credit and your credit lines. Make sure if you go into business with anyone, you're very careful about who you go into business with. And if you start a partnership, be aware you are liable for 100% of the partnership's liabilities. And that is not just financially. Like, let's say you take out a loan for the partnership. But if your partnership damages someone and they start a lawsuit against you, as a partner, you're liable for 100% of that, even if you're a 50-50 partner. So something to be aware of is be really careful of who you're associating with and keep track of things. I know sometimes people like the creatives love to just go create stuff and hook up with a mechanic or a lord who keeps track of the business. But I always say keep track of your bank accounts and make sure you're monitoring your things so you don't accidentally take on a liability you're not aware of.
Yeah, I think that's super, super important. Yeah, because and especially like, I mean, even with LLCs and stuff, it's so you can easily lose that protection you think you have. And when you're partnered with someone, that's even, a little bit sketchier. Because I know with an LLC, like, even if you have your bank account and everything registered with your LLC and all that stuff, if you for some reason use your card or your account or anything for anything personal, it basically makes your LLC null and void, and everything is at risk, is my understanding. What I've told.
Sort of. It depends on the flavor of your LLC. Like if you have an LLC you run like a sole proprietorship, it's a little bit more flexible. But if you have an LLC that you're running like a partnership, you do need to keep things very, very separate. So again, yes, it's good to have an LLC. It's simpler than a corporation, where the LLC stands for, I think, Limited Liability Company, and it basically says it's a separate entity from you personally. So in theory, if there's a liability, it stops at the LLC. It doesn't go to your personal assets.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a good point to bring up, is look at how your business is arranged. When I was in the financial business, that was hugely important because I was telling people stuff. And if they went out and made a 6-figure decision based on my advice and my advice was wrong, I actually carried separate professional liability coverage for that. In copywriting and marketing, I think what's good is we don't have as big of a malpractice or a liability issue. But, be very careful where you let the clients make the decisions. So again, if you're making suggestions, but they say, okay, yeah, I'll do this, or no, I won't do this, it strengthens your position if the client signs off on something. Because then you can say, hey, I wasn't controlling this action. I gave a suggestion. They, as a business owner, signed off on it, so I shouldn't be responsible. Unless you were committing fraud or something, which no one watching this would do. But again, it's just good to be cautious. And whenever you have a question, put things in writing. And you don't have to say, please sign a copy of this email and send it back. But if you send emails or if you have good, clear messaging, save those things because you never know when you might need it.
Mm-hmm. Even I was talking to somebody once recently too, is even if you just take a screenshot of them and put it somewhere. So you always have some kind of record, and it's easy to find because, emails get lost and all that kind of stuff. So take a quick screenshot. Same thing with Slack messages, anything else. Like if you want to feel confident in it, keep records of everything. Yeah.
Well, also too, the best defense is having written records, even if you write them yourself. Like when I went through an audit of my own taxes way back early in my career, I went in with bags full of receipts and check registers and everything. And the IRS agent said, well, what is this? And I go, oh, check number 257. And then I looked at it, oh, that's to Safeway. I said, oh, it's my other account. So then I pulled out my other, but I went in so prepared. At a certain point, the IRS agent realized he could waste a lot of time with me, or he could move on to the next person who maybe didn't have as good a record.
I love that.
So one thing, and even if it's just writing a note on your scratch pad, write a note, put it with your receipts, or write a note and stick it somewhere, because the idea is to tell anyone who questions anything, whether it's the IRS or an attorney or whoever, I thought you might think that. So back at that time, I wrote this note and put it in my files. So that in itself is something that might scare them off where they don't want to pursue something. So again, it's showing that you had forethought, but the way to prove you had the forethought is write it down. even if it's a scribbled note and you just stick it in your record somewhere.
Yeah, I think that's super important. Or, like some kind of digital piece, even like if you have, like, because we do a lot of stuff online now, if you even have just like a sheet or a document and like date and what it is and what it's for. Like every time I pay something out or I purchase something or whatever, like mastermind tickets, all that kind of stuff, I just throw it on this one sheet, got everything there, paying people out, all that stuff. Even though I still use QuickBooks to, track a lot of my stuff, I want to have my own record to understand what it is, why I, put it to that account and stuff like that. So it's easy for me. It takes an extra few minutes, but in the end of the day, I remember this one time I was filing my taxes, literally sat there for like 12 hours one day. Of course, it was the day before taxes were due, and like trying to go through everything. And it's just exhausting. So spending that extra few minutes every, when you're doing it, or end of the day, end of the month, whatever is best for you, makes a big difference in being prepared and
having your envelopes where everything is pre-sorted and your one credit card statement and your one bank statement makes it easy, or as easy as it can be. Yes.
So much easier. Oh God, I can't even tell you. I that day was a rough day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like all this, knowledge and background you have in the financial side and protecting assets and how to really, document expenses and all of these credits that people can use and everything too. And I'm curious, like, what prompted you to switch more into the marketing side of things and like becoming a CMO now? Like, I know you kind of mentioned that, but yeah, tell me more.
Again, it's sort of being where people aren't. Like there's so many people that say they can write, but there aren't that many people that can integrate the writing. And what I'd love to do is I love to work with people. So I love to work with copywriters. And if they come and say, hey, can you look at my stuff and help me sharpen my copy? Or I'm trying to get into this niche. Do you have any insights? That's where I can actually help other copywriters versus compete against them. And it's being able to integrate, like look at something and say, gee, this would be more effective if it had this angle. Or, one thing that I tell people is, if you are not like a parent, don't go charging into that niche and trying to just say, well, because I'm a marketer, I can do it. Get some great parenting people and take them out to lunch and pick their brains, because you really need to understand your markets. So going into the marketing or the CMO stuff is just because there's not many people that do that. And it also helps me because I can work with copywriters instead of compete against them. And knowing the copywriting side, but also knowing the marketing side is pretty useful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, so you've got like the copywriting, the marketing, and, just the knowledge of a lot of people and background, especially in business and all of this, because you've been around so long and you've met so many people and you've been working and connecting with people for a long, that's what it really is. It boils down to getting to know people and being able to talk to them and understand what their needs are and wants and desires and all that good stuff. So,
yeah. And if I can, I want to give you a plug, because when I talk to people and they say, oh, I need somebody to help me do something, I always say, oh, great. I have someone in my network and she helps build teams. So I've added value to that interaction. Whether or not that person hires me, all of a sudden I'm the resource. Or it's like, oh, she can help me find a gap or help me fill a gap that I need. There's a couple other things that I'm doing right now that I'll mention really quickly. One is I help people get free Google ads, and it's a fairly complicated thing, but basically almost any business owner can set up a nonprofit that is sort of like complementary to their for-profit business, and they can get $10,000 a month of free Google ads, which if you're a small business, that is huge. I'm a co-founder of a business. We got our first Google ad grant. On that $10,000 of free ads per month, we get 800 to 1,500 website visits per day. Wow. And we were able to build an email list of over 35,000 email addresses within 6 months from free ads, which makes us be able to compete with bigger businesses very easily. We're getting our second Google grant, and the theme of that one will be loneliness. So that now we'll have $20,000 a month to spend to grow a social network. So that's one thing. And again, I don't have time to give all the details, but if you're interested, please DM me or contact Michele, and she'll give you my contact information. And if you know companies or clients that you want to refer, I do pay for referrals. The other thing, and you mentioned it really early, was the AI language translation. This is a game changer. Thanks to AI and a very good database, there's a company that I work with as an affiliate where they will pay me to introduce them to companies that need their product. And language translation is huge. So if they have a website, instead of paying someone to translate the website into different languages, we can put computer code in their website that automatically senses what the language of the device looking at the website is and presents the content in that language. So as an example, this company is being used by McDonald's on a QR code. So if I have a phone that is Korean and I scan the QR code, the McDonald's menu will pop up in Korean. I can take that same QR code, and if my phone is in Farsi, it'll come up in Farsi or German or Spanish. And my understanding is they have 12 flavors of Spanish. So it will actually pick up regional dialects in certain languages. It works for websites. They can subtitle almost anything. They do the subtitles for NFL and their NFL games, but they also developed a subtitle for Zoom. So if we were doing this as an international Zoom meeting, you could actually see the subtitle on your screen of my talking in your language that your device is set to. So if you're a business owner and want to expand internationally, you have these tools that used to be very, very costly to use. I have a friend who had a 45-minute video and he wanted it translated to, I think, Spanish and German. So we had a meeting with this company and they said, oh, great, we'll get you the drafts. Do you want it dubbed? He's like, oh, yeah, I want it dubbed. So he has 2 versions of his 45-minute video. They completed the job in less than 1 day, and they charged him less than $1,500 for both versions of the video because it's done by AI. They translate documents, and if you have a contract to translate, they'll actually get a human being to proofread the AI translation. They do text messaging and customer service SMS. So if I have an English-based offer and a customer texts me and they speak Spanish, I'll see the text in English, like, oh, do you have this in red? I'll respond, yes, I have 3 of them in red. Do you want one? But then the customer will see it in Spanish. So this is a great way to talk to business owners and say, hey, can we look at expanding your reach without a lot of extra expenses? The one last story I'll tell you really quickly is we had a car dealership in Southern California where they were approached and they said, yeah, we think we need a Spanish version of our website and maybe a Spanish way of talking with customer service. They put a free trial, 7-day free trial on their website, and they found out that the most popular language other than English was Vietnamese. And the second most popular non-English language was Arabic. So you actually had this company who didn't even know that people, it was a Lexus dealership. People going to their website were going with Arabic and Vietnamese language devices. So they changed the website. They made sure that the customer service contacts could be done in any of 104 languages. And within 30 days, they had a 120% increase in their website activity. They had a 9% increase in their service, like servicing other Lexuses. And I believe they said they had a 7% increase in their sales. just by finding out, hey, we thought we were going to serve a Hispanic speaking marketplace. And we've got these people that speak Vietnamese and Arabic that want their Lexuses serviced, or they want to buy a Lexus. So it's, as a marketer, again, that's a great tool for me. I was told 19 to 20% of the people living in the US do not speak English as their first language. So if you go to a local business and say, would you be interested in trying to see, are there other people in other languages that are coming to your website or hitting your landing page? If they say yes, we put on a free trial and see what's happening. And then if it makes sense, we're like, oh, well, you can put this thing on your website. It starts at $25 a month, and then you pay per translation, like a few cents here or there. But it makes so much sense. And it gives me such a unique way to go to a business owner and say, hey, you know, I can help you with things like ads and email and whatnot, but let's look at either getting you free ads through Google or finding a way to increase your reach without increasing a lot of your expenses. Once I'm in that door and they see me as the solutions lady, then I can bring in people from my network. I can introduce other ideas. And again, I've created a better start to the relationship that hopefully will be a long-term relationship.
I love that. I love that. And yeah, it makes a big difference in, like, you know, even like looking at it for like business owners in our space as well, in the online area, is like, you know, getting those translated into other languages and running your offer and ads and everything in other countries. So it's a fast way to, because I know a lot of like people I've worked with in the past are like, oh, I really want to branch into, you know, the Spanish market or French or this, that, and the other. And it's like, you know,
Brazil is hot. Brazil is hot with Portuguese.
Exactly.
But the other thing is, there are people in the US that would do business with you that don't speak English as their native language. And just to let you know, there are some pretty famous marketers that have Google ads. I saw Troy Erickson wrote an email and he mentioned he's using free Google ads. So again, you would think, oh, how would a email marketer or how would a marketing firm get free ads? There are ways to do it, but you have to follow the rules, stay within the lines, and use the regulations. But anybody who wants to explore that with clients, please contact me. If you refer someone that ends up getting a Google grant, I pay. Right now, I'm paying $1,000 for a lead that converts. And it really helps the company. Like I said, one of my own companies grew our email list to 35,000 people in less than 6 months for free. And that list is a huge asset.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's super helpful for any business like trying to grow and just get their message out and help more people. Definitely. So I think it's really, really valuable. I appreciate you sharing those with us. How do you mind me asking, how do you find all of these like little hacks and softwares and things to use?
Well, being a naturally curious person and hanging out in online communities, somehow, and again, sometimes it's a person who I've done a favor who says, by the way, will you look at this? A lot of times I'm asked to evaluate things. And when this person showed me the language translation thing, I said, oh my God, this is amazing. And then as it turns out, there's an affiliate network where we not only have the language translation, where they pay me to refer a prospect and I get paid for the life of that client. They also are the ones who had the ERC referral, where I don't have to be licensed or even know about it. I just have to give the client my link, say, I'm not the expert, but if you go to this link and fill out a short form, they'll tell you exactly what you need to do to find out if you can get money back. The same affiliate network has a health insurance referral link. So for people that don't have insurance through their employers, there's a freelancers insurance company that I've been told they work in all 50 states. I tested them for a client in Colorado and they were very cost competitive. So again, through this one affiliate network, they have credit counseling, ERC, they have the language translation, and they also have, I think, financial counseling and health insurance. So it's just keeping your ears open and then doing things like telling everyone, hey, I'm looking at this new thing. It's sort of cool, and growing that network.
I like that. I love that. Yeah, that's super valuable. And like having those contacts and being able to bring those to your clients too is an asset, because you do a lot of, strategy for clients and helping them grow their business. And these are all ways that they can. So I love that.
Well, if you're finding money for them, then again, like with the ERC thing, I have a client in Denver where I referred for the ERC. And because it takes no work from my standpoint, I told her, whatever ERC affiliate commission I get paid, I will credit that against your consulting bill with me. So if I get paid $2,000 or $3,000 for making that referral, I'll credit that to her bill. Because for me, the longer term relationship of being able to help her grow her business is more important than picking up the extra $2,000 or $3,000.
Yeah.
So right then and there, she sees like, wow, that's how a business person thinks. It didn't take me a lot of time and it doesn't cost me anything and I get a benefit. So I'll share that benefit with you. And that's me investing in our relationship. Where I told her, hey, if I get $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 from getting you an ERC credit, then I will give that back to you basically, because I didn't have to work for it. And that's how you build really strong relationships. Plus, she went out and said, oh my gosh, I think I have 2 friends who might qualify for the credit. Can I have them talk to you? I'm like, of course. So it always comes back.
I love that. And it's that go-giver nature that you embody, and it's helping other people, and it comes back to you for sure. And like, you don't know how or you don't know why or where, but as long as you put your foot out there helping people and lead with that help, things come back to you. So The Go-Giver was a really good book that I read that talks about that a lot. But it's really just, your network, the amount of lives you can touch, the amount of people. I mean, that's all relevant. The amount of people you can help, that's all relevant to your income and increasing that and everything. So this has been really, really helpful. I really appreciate you being here today, Carolyn. Thank you for this.
Thank you. This was fun. I mean, I always enjoy talking to you, and I'm glad that we could share some things with other people.
Yeah, I always enjoy talking to you. It's always fun to learn more, and yeah, it's been really great. Is there anything you want to leave off with everyone?
Well, just the power of networking. I started out by going to a Copy Accelerator event, and that was like the start of my network. But then people I met through that event, and then people I met through those people. It's always good to try to learn about other people, whether or not you think you'll benefit from it. And just a final story is, I love this idea of being a giver, and I've been following Joe Polish for a while. And thanks to being on Stephen Georgi's network and on his email list, I was signing up for his Golden Swan. I guess it's an NFT, but part of being in that Golden Swan is Joe Polish and Chris Voss and Laura Catella, brilliant Laura, plus Nick Peterson. They're all founders of this NFT. So I did buy one and sign up. And again, it's expanding my network beyond just copy and marketing into major business networking. So I wouldn't have known that when I first went to Copy Accelerator, but you just sort of follow the path, and it's amazing what happens.
Just see where it leads you. Exactly. Your network is everybody says it, your network is your net worth, but it's a lonely world online, or it can be, and networking with people like this and getting to know them and going to events, that's how we connect. That's how we grow businesses. That's how people want to do business with people that they enjoy, and getting a chance to meet them in person gives you a chance to get to know them better. So I love that.
Well, plus, if you do it properly, you even subsidize it by being able to deduct a lot of your expenses.
Yep. Exactly.
Taking us back to where we started. Make smart decisions.
Yes, smart decisions, document everything, make sure you're tracking stuff, and just be diligent about it. It takes an extra few seconds while you're doing it, or in a day or whatever, but it's worth it in the long run. So.
Well, and once you start thinking like that, you'll find you sort of naturally are more in tune with your business prospects.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I agree. All right, Carolyn, I really appreciate this. I know we went over a little bit, so I don't want to take too much of your time, but I really enjoyed this, and I appreciate you sharing all this knowledge with us today. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Cool. If anybody wants to reach out to Carolyn, it's Carolyn Santo on Facebook. I'll, make sure she's tagged in this video and everything too. So thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Have a great day.
Bye.